Hello, dear ones, and greetings from the Center for Contemporary Mysticism. My name is Joe Irwin, and I am glad to welcome you again to this wonderful journey that we share. Today, our special guest is Jennifer Dickens, a former corporate executive turned spiritual teacher and HeartMath coach, and soon to be author, we hope. We'll hear more about that in a little bit. But Jen's story is very fascinating. For over 2 decades, she held a number of high position jobs and titles in top, 500 corporations until one day her body could take it no more and really kind of warned her that she needed to make some changes before it was too late. And so her story is how she really had to find a way to be at peace with her own life and her own body, and how that came to be a part of HeartMath and a variety of other things that she's doing. And today, Jen spends most of her time writing and leading workshops and serving as a HeartMath coach and an intuitive and a spiritual practitioner. And she's working on a book which is entitled Awakening Heart Wisdom. I hope she'll tell us a little more about that. And it is soon to be published. And when it is, we'll put it on the bookshop.org on our website. So welcome, Jen. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Joe. It is really an honor and blessing to be here to support your community and to be interviewed by both you and Patricia. I'm really looking forward to hopefully sharing some good heart wisdom to take with them through this new year.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's great. Well, before we get started, we will welcome back Patricia, who's our interviewer, as many of you know. She is a former pastor, a spiritual teacher, and host of a wonderful podcast called the We Awakening Podcast. So be sure and check that out. And lastly, we want to take a minute just to welcome each of you who are part of this, because you're a part of our community together, whether you're here with us in person on this particular Sunday when we're recording, or you're watching it later on YouTube. And if you're new to the center, be sure and check out the website, because our website has hundreds of resources from past speakers, videos, and groups you can participate in. So it's simply contemporarymysticism.org. So remember, our goal is to be a partner with you. So if you feel that what we're doing is important, we invite you to get involved, to volunteer, join, support, do whatever feels natural, but help us continue this important work. And lastly, before I sign off for a while and turn it over to Patricia and Jen, remember we will have a Q&A after we finish our interview between Jennifer and Patricia. And so after the main conversation and interview, we'll have a Q&A, and you can click raise your hand. So if you have a question or a thought or something you'd like to share or know more about as we go through, jot it down. If you're like me, you might forget about it before the end of the program. So make a note of it, and when we come to our Q&A, you'll be able to click raise your hand and come on, and we get to as many as we can. So without further ado, Patricia and Jen will turn it over to you, and I'll be back in a bit for the Q&A.
Thank you, Joe. And Jen, I'm so glad to have this chance to speak with you. You and I we met recently online and had a chance to just get acquainted a little bit. And Joe shared sort of a very brief sketch of your background, having been in the corporate world and having some pretty high-powered executive positions. And you discovered you really needed to move in a different direction for your own health, for your own wholeness. And I'm curious, in that process, well, I mean, we could spend the whole time just talking about that, and we're not going to do that. But I am curious how you ended up, as a result of that transition, how you ended up doing heart-centered work. What was it about that seemed like that was the path forward for you?
Thank you, Patricia. That is an excellent and well-positioned question because, you know, it was quite a journey from the time where I started my physical healing and which guided me to uh, yoga and meditation and other holistic and integrative approaches to healing my condition. But over time in meditation, what happened was uh, I my intuition really grew, and especially when I became a HeartMath certified coach and trainer, my intuition just grew exponentially. And the intuition comes from the heart. That's why I call it awakening heart wisdom. Our intuition is our innate wisdom, our divine wisdom that we're born with. And so I was just following my heart. And my heart was guiding me to awaken my heart and to awaken the heart of humanity to divine love, to the love that they are, to their own divinity. So it all just kind of unfolded from just being in the stillness and following the guidance and starting to journal and document and write what was coming to me as I would sit and meditate or as I would come out from meditation. And a lot of times it would just be really inspiring. I would like literally jump, jump out of meditation to write down the intuitive insights that came. And then eventually I just kept a notepad by me because so much would come to me in the stillness.
That's so beautiful. And these meditations, when you were experiencing really this blossoming of your own intuition, were you, at that point, were you already doing heart math types of meditations? Were those the ones that really helped you open up to that, or was it before even you discovered heart math?
It was before I even discovered HeartMath. I do Kriya Yoga meditation as taught by Self-Realization Fellowship. And so uh, through Kriya Yoga, which is a Rajistic style of meditation with pranayama, um, mantra, but primarily it's really just getting deeper into the stillness, stilling um, our thoughts, stilling our senses, really just stilling all the senses so we can go as deep as possible within ourselves. Yeah.
Yes. And then you discovered heart math, or something led you to heart math. You heard about it. And I think probably a lot of people who are watching this video or this presentation are familiar with heart math. But just briefly, can you tell us what the Heart Math Institute is all about?
Yeah, the HeartMath Institute has been around for about 30 years and founded by Doc Childry. And their purpose was to study the science of the heart and the mind and how the heart and the mind communicate with each other. Uh, from a spiritual standpoint, but they don't say that. It's almost like they were trying to prove the science of spirituality. But but really, they wanted to prove some of these spiritual knowings through science. And so what they did is they studied the heart and the brain, how they communicate, developed their own methodology and language into helping people get into a state of coherence. And a state of coherence is an optimal state of being where the heart and the brain are optimized to communicate. So you're not only getting your intelligence from your brain and what you think you know, but you're allowing your heart wisdom to participate and give insights as well. So they're both communicating optimally, and then we make better choices and decisions based on knowledge and wisdom.
Mhm. When I've taken a couple of heart math programs myself, and one of the things that they often say is that the heart does way more communicating to the brain than the other way around, which is not what we would expect. We think that the brain is the center of all of this activity. But can you say more about what they have discovered about the role of the heart in our overall emotional and spiritual well-being? And that's both from a scientific perspective, which is what they've been investigating, but then also if you could share from your spiritual perspective the importance of the role of the heart in our own wholeness.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the main things that they discovered that I always share with people, my coaching clients, and in webinars and in classes and courses, is that the heart has an electromagnetic field. And this electromagnetic field receives information from our external environment and feeds information to our brain. Our brain then gives information to the rest of the body how to respond to what's going on in our external environment. So what we could say, if you will, is our heart is the Wi-Fi tower of the body. So the brain does have an electromagnetic field, but it's much smaller than the field of the heart. So the heart is not only receiving information, it's transmitting information. So how you feel gets transmitted. That's why you have to be really careful to stay in those high vibration feelings as much as you can, because what you send out to the universe is what you're going to get back, right? So the more love and appreciation and gratitude and joy you can feel, that's emitted out. And so the universe is going to give you experiences that will allow you to feel more appreciation, gratitude, love, and joy. And so this electromagnetic field of the heart sends information to the brain. Um, so the two of them are communicating with each other, but the body as well, every cell in our body is part of the mind. Everything is part of the mind. So it's communicating information to all the cells in our body, how to respond, what to do, how to feel. This is why we also store emotions in different parts of our body, right? So when you do somatic healing, you're releasing some of the stored up emotions in the body. Um, as far as the heart, the physiology of the heart, what they've also found, so the heart also relaxes and affects our autonomic nervous system, and our autonomic nervous system affects our body's physiology. So when we can become heart coherent, we're relaxing the nervous system to be in the parasympathetic, which then releases the feel-good hormones of DHEA and oxytocin and these feel-good hormones that allow us to live life calmly active and actively calm. So when we get into fight or flight, like we have an experience, a confrontation or something happens, we move into the sympathetic. And when we move into the sympathetic, we start releasing cortisol and adrenaline into our bloodstream, which inhibits our thinking, our clarity of focus. And so when we do these HeartMath practices, we can move back into the parasympathetic, stop the production of cortisol and adrenaline, and start the production of the feel-good hormones, which then go into the bloodstream. I mean, it can be pretty dramatic because when we're in fight or flight, those hormones stay in our bloodstream for about 4 hours, which is why we're always amped up for an extended period of time after we have some type of confrontation. But if you have an awareness that, oh my gosh, I just got triggered, let me do a HeartMath technique, you can calm yourself down within 10, 15 minutes and stop the production. And you are fine within 15 minutes to a half hour. You're back to a coherent state of being. And that is a really big deal because when we have life experiences, we want to think clearly to make the right choices for ourselves, our family, our loved ones, or it could be something at work. We don't want to jeopardize our career and things like that. Like I wish I had these tools when I was in the corporate world. My career would have probably looked a lot different because being in these high stress executive positions or positions where you're managing a lot of people or have responsibility for large regions, lots of offices, you're frequently working from fight or flight because there's so much demand that your nervous system never really rests. Like if I had these tools at that time, things would have been so different because you can get into rest and restore in the midst throughout the day, in between projects and requests and demands and conference calls and presentations and meetings. You know what I mean?
I
So
absolutely do.
I hope I answered your
Oh my
question.
goodness. Yeah. I mean, there's so many directions that I would love to go right now. Um, so, I mean, clearly they're doing the scientific research, and this is also ancient wisdom of the role of the heart. But it's, now, I mean, we like to have the scientific proof of it, right? So really opening to the heart, opening the heart, attuning to the heart also aids us in our own self realization, our own self actualization, our own divine attunement. So, can you speak to that? Like, how do we come to know ourselves more deeply? And can we even know ourselves if we're not connected to the heart? Because the way I experience it, like the heart is the portal. This is the way I experience it. It's very palpable. It's a very physical sensation of this radiance, this love. It's this portal to the non-visible dimension that is pure love. So can you say more about, with your work in this field, how you watch and witness people opening up more and more fully to their own divine selves?
You're absolutely right, Patricia. The heart is the portal. The heart is the portal to our divinity. The heart is the portal to remember who we are. Uh, the ancients, right, believed in, like even in the Bible, they talk about um, uh, that the pure of heart, it's about purity of heart. The pure of heart will see God. The pure of heart will get into the kingdom of heaven. Even the ancient Egyptians believed that when you passed um, from the physical world into uh, the world of the gods, they believed that you would be met by the goddess Mut, and she would weigh your heart on a scale and against a feather. So there would be a feather on one side and your heart on the other side of the scale, and that you couldn't get into the kingdom of heaven unless your heart was lighter than a feather, which is really so telling. That's purity of heart. We can't take our burdens with us, and our burdens hold us back. And if we, this is why purity of heart is so important. It's because we it holds us back from recognizing our own divinity, from having purity of heart. So the work that I do in Awakening Heart Wisdom with the Six Heart Illuminations is to help people awaken, purify, and then illuminate their heart. The illumination is for you to experience that radiant feeling, the light of the divine that's expressing itself through your heart. So our role in life is really to remember who we are, but we have to purify our heart to get there. We have to release what weighs heavy on our heart, our life experiences, maybe even past life experience. We need to release and surrender and let that go so we can live life lighthearted. Like the ancient Egyptians, you can't get into the kingdom of heaven unless your heart is light as a feather. So.
Yeah, and when you say that, only the pure of heart can enter the kingdom of heaven. We in the dualistic paradigm hear that as, oh, judgment, like my heart isn't pure enough, therefore I'm not allowed in. But it's really when we are in that state of pure heartedness, we are in the kingdom of heaven.
That is correct, because the
We
kingdom of heaven
It's
is
here,
right
it's
here in our
within, right? And if our hearts aren't pure, we can't experience it because it's already there.
heart.
So tell us, I'm also just as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about how A Course of Love talks about bitterness of the heart. Bitterness is to the heart as ego is to the mind, and that it's about releasing the bitterness of the heart, which I suspect is very much what you mean when you say purifying the heart.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about what is it? What does it mean to purify the heart, and how do we do that?
Sure, sure. So, uh, purity of heart is releasing your burdens, your any uh, feeling that weighs heavy on your heart. If you feel sad, if you feel depressed, if you feel guilty, if you feel shameful, if you feel resentment and anger, if you feel grief or sorrow, all of these feelings weigh heavy on your heart. And we all have life experiences, but we carry this with us through lifetimes, through this lifetime, something that happened in the past. Well, if it's not in the now, the past is gone, but we carry the memory with us. So that's another thing that HeartMath discovered is the same neuroreceptors and transmitters that are in the brain we have in our heart. So we actually have memory in our heart. Our memories are feelings, our feelings. And that's why sometimes when we hear a song or we hear something that reminds us of someone that we lost, we might start crying because the memory is in the heart. But at the same time, if we hear a song of a beautiful moment that we had in our past, we might suddenly feel elated. So it works both ways. And so we want to hold on to love and joy and happiness and gratitude and appreciation and all those things. We want to feel the grief, but we want to let it go. We don't have to keep it with us because those are not feelings that allow us to live lighthearted. Now, as far as releasing, surrendering, and letting go of and becoming pure of heart. So, interestingly enough, in my meditations after I became, very shortly after I became a HeartMath certified coach and trainer, uh, these insights and inspirations and this wisdom started to come out of my heart, which I developed into a process called the six heart illuminations. And what I discovered is that these six heart illuminations to awaken the heart, to activate feelings, because there's a lot of people who have so much pain, they don't even feel feelings. They don't know how to feel feelings, correct? So you need to be able to safely feel feelings again. Purifying the heart is a process within the six heart illuminations of releasing, surrendering, and letting go of these burdens into the light, into divine light. So I help people, I channel light, I channel love. It's, channeling love and light, that these feelings can be released, surrendered, and purified into, dissipated into. And then from there, we magnetize the heart. We magnetize, since the heart is electromagnetic, we magnetize it with love. We magnetize it with love. So we're replacing what we let go with love, self-love, divine love. And then we illuminate that love. We illuminate our inner light. So when this process came to me, I thought, this is really interesting. So I documented it, and then I offered it to my HeartMath coaching clients. I said, I have this new process. Would you like to go through it? It's a 6-session process. And so I started using it with my HeartMath coaching clients, and they just blossomed at the end. Their whole demeanor really transformed because they were no longer carrying. And for some of them, the things that came out were childhood traumas were released, shadow work, things were released that, some of them I'd been working with, for 2, 3 years as a life coach, as a guide, and it finally came out when we started doing this work. And uh, so so from that, this a friend of mine who's in publishing said, you can make this a book. You can make your process a book. And so that's how the book is coming about, Ascension through the Six Heart Illuminations, and an online course as well, because I work with people one-on-one to take them through the Six Heart Illuminations to help them purify their heart. I work with groups, but I also want to be able to make it affordable and available to anyone and everyone. And I think the book is a good starting point that they can then go into the course to get the guided meditations, to really get more of the full experience of the Six Heart Illuminations process.
It sounds really, really beautiful. Really beautiful. And we obviously are living in challenging times right now. And
Yes.
you are based in the LA area, and you've talked about bringing some of this to the people there. How do you see this heart practice aiding us in this very turbulent time that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, that is it's very interesting being here in LA and having a lot of people that I know affected who've lost their homes, who've lost their life. We just found out one of our friends actually lost her life, and being so many people being displaced, it really, even though it's two neighborhoods, but it's affected almost everyone because there's so many families affected. And right now, they're still for example, they're still numb. They're either numb or they're angry on the spectrum. They're still in this state of disbelief. And as that starts to subside, some are starting to get into depression, right? Realizing the extent of what they have to deal with. So uh, I'm also a HeartMath trauma sensitive coach. And so you have to take people slowly. You have to meet them where they are in this trauma and allow them to grieve. To grieve their loss is really important. Just uh, allow them to grieve in a safe space uh, with some comfort and nourishment and nurturing them and just sending them love is really the start. And then when they're in a space of, okay, they've grieved their loss and they need to be uplifted and get back into a coherent state, uh, then moving them through a purification process would be ideal. But in the beginning, it's really just helping them breathe through their heart so they can release those emotions gently.
Mm.
People, this is a time of uh, being gentle with yourself and being gentle with others, because they're not coming from a coherent state of being right now.
Yeah.
Understandably,
Yes.
we have our humanity and we have our divinity. So, for example, 7 monks in the ashram for the meditation temple I go to lost their home, 7 of 14. And so they addressed those of us who go on a regular basis. And you know, even though monks have very little possessions, they still felt in a sense of freedom from having like no possessions. So there's some people who are surrendered, there's some people who are grieving, um, and there's some people who are accepting their circumstances and situation. And then there's some people who are feeling this deep sense of freedom from having any material belongings. So it's an
Mhm.
interesting process.
Yes. And you mentioned breathing into the heart, which is that's the core of the heart math
Yeah,
process, is really imagining the breath moving in and out of the heart center. And
yeah.
that brings us both into the heart, heart awareness, and brings us into the present. And so when you are sort of coaching people in heart math, do you take them through certain practices and processes that HeartMath has developed? Or are you in that moment sort of listening to your own intuition and being guided into new ways and new directions? How does that work?
Yeah, there's two separate programs that I work with people, and that is one is the HeartMath, straight HeartMath building personal resilience. And it is coaching because it's a program where they're learning new tools and techniques to self-regulate their autonomic nervous system and their emotions. But I'm also listening to what's going on in their life. So it's such a broad spectrum. I work actually with a Harvard-trained cardiologist, and she sends a lot of her patients to me. And they're at different professional levels. Some are older, some are young. And uh, really just helping them um, uh, be empowered to self-regulate their own nervous system. So that's one program, the straight heart math. And then the other is the six heart illuminations, those who want to go deeper into the heart, really tap into their own divinity, tap into the aspect of purifying their heart, illuminating their heart, tapping into their own divine wisdom, awakening their own divine wisdom. So that is a separate program, and a lot of times they'll start with one and then move into the other. So I really kind of work with people based on where they're at, you know. So, and some of them are like, there's one gentleman I'm working with, he has a tech company and he's doing a presentation for the CEO of Google. So I'm helping him with certain techniques that not only bring him into a state of inner ease before the presentation, but also help him learn coherent communication that HeartMath has developed. And coherent communication is more about how are you listening, right? And then how are you reiterating to the people that you are having this presentation with that you heard what they said? And there's a way to do that and a confirmation so that they understand that you understand what they said. And if they didn't, they can course correct in the moment, saying that's not exactly it. This is really what I'm meaning. Which is great because then you minimize miscommunication. Yeah.
And when you say this person is presenting to the CEO of Google, when we spoke previously, you talked about, I hope this isn't revealing but too much, but that you're kind of getting this intuition that you might need to sort of go back into corporate settings and bring this wisdom with you to share. And what can you even imagine? I mean, what would it be like if corporate leaders were able to open and access their hearts? What difference do you think that would make in not only in their lives, but in just the reality that we're all living in collectively?
Well, that's what's so important is so we're in the process, humanity is in the process of awakening. The earth is evolving and we need to evolve with it. And so humanity is in the process of awakening. And when we say awakening, what is it that's awakening? Our consciousness. Our consciousness is awakening. Our wisdom awakens through the heart. We have to awaken the heart of humanity. We have to awaken our heart of humanity to our own divinity and who we are. And that's, for a lot of people, that's eventual. But we got to awaken it. And so in meditation, I had a certain experience happen that made it clear that I have to go back in and awaken the heart of corporate executives because they are influencers, big influence. They influence what happens in the world. And we're seeing it now, right? With a lot of the leaders in tech companies and different companies are sitting with our new elected leaders. So we have to awaken their hearts because they have a lot of influence. And so if humanity is going to awaken, it can be the groundswell for sure, but But now we're at a stage where it has to start happening more quickly. And how do you do that? And that's by having leaders who are awakening. So what I'm experiencing, one of the first corporate companies I was sent into to do HeartMath work was McKinsey and Company, which is the #1 largest global consulting company. And these kind of opportunities don't just fall in your lap. Like I couldn't believe it was happening. I was like, how did this happen? Like I had to bring a HeartMath someone from the company to work with me to do some of the coaching because I was so new. But there are corporate leaders who are already connected with their heart, and they are already doing things, but you just don't hear about it as much. But I think we'll start hearing about it more often because even, for example, so like LinkedIn, the CEO of LinkedIn, their CEO has been doing mindfulness and consciousness offering meditation practices within his organization and has incorporated it. Google now has employees in-house who do mindfulness work with employees to help them get more heart connected, if you will, just from a mindfulness standpoint, from a meditation kind of standpoint. You can't get into your inner world without awakening your heart. But straight meditation is really good. But HeartMath and awakening heart wisdom just is an accelerator. It really accelerates it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so exciting to ponder the possibilities of that
Yeah.
and for shifts to happen that are heart-based. Yeah, it's I find that very exciting. So, would you be willing to guide us in a guided meditation, your Be Love meditation, so that we can experience this, those of us who are here and those of us who will be watching the video afterwards?
I'd love to.
That'd
I'd
be
love
great.
to, Patricia.
Thank you,
Thank
Jen.
you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. And what I'll do also is I'll just play a little bit of background music uh,
Mhm.
just to help facilitate uh,
Great.
interiorization and bringing that more relaxed state of being. And that I just one thing to mention about both HeartMath and the Six Heart Illuminations, it's still an engaged state. It's relaxed, but so that we can be calmly active and actively calm as we go through life. So it's not such a deep relaxation that you fall asleep, like when you go to get a massage or something like that. It's uh, still an active state of relaxation.
Great. Thanks. I'm just going to turn my camera off and I'll be right back after the
All
meditation.
right, great. All right, everyone, I'll invite you to relax your eyes closed and shift your attention and energy to your breathing. And if you'd like, you can put your hand on your heart and just gently, softly, slowly breathe in and out of your heart as if your mouth is sitting in the middle of your chest, taking in each deep and gentle inhale and exhale. Breathing in at a slow, steady pace, 5, 6 seconds in, 5, 6 seconds. Softening your breath and softening your heart with each gentle inhale and exhale. Your mind wanders, just bring your attention back to slowly breathing in and out of your heart. On your next inhale, breathe in the feeling of appreciation, gratitude, or love for someone, something, or someplace in your life. Maybe it's your partner, or your children, or your pet that you just love, appreciate having in your life. Maybe it's connection to your divinity, your source, your guides, your guru, whatever it is that you love, appreciate, and are grateful for in your life. So really feel the feeling in your love. Visualize yourself with this person, these people, or a group, or a community. A heartwarming, loving, grateful moment. And just really allow the love, feeling of love to grow in your heart like a warm, nurturing vibration of love. Now expand this feeling of love building in your heart at the core of your see it expanding in all directions from your heart like a warm, nurturing candlelight, getting brighter, brighter, expanding out further and further from your heart, every cell, particle of your being. Feeling each cell, body vibrating, mind love, emanating from your heart. It out beyond your body. You're floating weightless, gently, lightly in a bubble of love, appreciation, gratitude for yourself, your divinity emanating from your heart, divine love emanating from your heart. Just allow yourself to melt weightlessly into this field of love that's carrying you, that's nurturing you, that's loving you, that's supporting you, that's protecting you and providing for all your needs whatsoever. Just release yourself into this love. Affirming silently with me, I am love. I am loved. I am loving. And I am lovable. I am worthy of love. And I am worth loving. I am a divine embodiment of love, peace, joy. Love, peace, and joy imbue every cell, word, and being. The warm, shimmering, golden, white light emanating from my heart.
I am a being of love, love. I am a being of love, 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 love. I am a being of love, love. I am a being of love, 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 love. Love, I am a being of love, love. I am a being of love, 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 love. I am a being of love, love. I am a being of love, 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 love. I am a being of love, love. I am a being of love, 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 love.
Now bring your attention back to your breath, back to your heart, feeling yourself as a being of love. Just gently breathing in and out of your heart. Thanking your higher self, your divinity, for this moment, for this expansion, for this heart awakening. Take a few more gentle, slow breaths at your own pace. Anchoring this feeling and taking it with you through the rest of your day, through the rest of your week. feeling of being loved, being loved, being loving and lovable. And on your next exhale, you can gently open up your eyes and just sit quietly for a moment and just experience how it feels to be in the heart.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you.
My honor.
So we are going to be moving into Q&A here in just a moment. And before we do that, I want to just ask you, how can people get in touch with you and follow what you're doing and connect with you and your work?
Sure. Thank you for that offer, for your community. I actually have a free Cultivating Divine Love webinar coming up later this week on Thursday, the January 30th. And Joe's going to be sending out the video with some of the links so that you can register for that webinar later this week. I also do online group Six Heart Illuminations programs when I have enough people interested, or I work with people one-on-one, whether it's HeartMath coaching, or the Six Heart Illuminations. And I'll also include with the links, a link for my website, and how people can stay connected with me. My website is, for those who are coming in and seeing this video later, is Jen Dickens. So it's JENNDICKENS.com. If people would like to go there, I have information about my offerings and any events, retreats, or programs I have coming up. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And thank you for spending this time with us. It's really been a rich experience. And I'm going to ask Joe to come back on in a moment for the Q&A. And again, if someone has a question, you can raise your hand and he'll bring you on as a panelist, and we'll be able to see you and you can ask your question of Jen that way. If you're shy or you don't want to have your video on, you can type your question in the Q&A window that you'll see the icon for that at the bottom of your screen. So thank you again, Jen. And Joe, I would like to invite you back on, and then I will disappear.
Thank you,
Joe
Patricia. Thank
facilitates.
you so much for your great questions. Really, you got right to the heart of it, as I would say.
That was the whole idea, right? Thank you.
She always does. Thank you, Jen, for that beautiful and inspiring meditation, as well as the conversation before, giving us such a good background of the HeartMath program and some of the things you're involved in. So we want to go to a Q&A now, and that means that if you have a question, we want to invite you to raise your hand. And when you do that, we'll bring you on screen and let you ask your question of Jen. Also, if you're a little shy to show your face, you can put a question in the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many as possible. So we'll go ahead and get started now with some of our Q&A. I see we have a question from Heather Collins. If you would click on the button that says Promote Panelist, we will bring you on screen, and we'll ask you to turn on your video. And there you go. Hi there, Heather. Welcome aboard and welcome to have your question to Jen.
Wow, cool.
Hi, Heather. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. So the issue that I've been wondering about is the bird flu. And I don't know if you have read much about that, but it's getting very interesting. And when you were talking about how you're connecting with corporate people, because it seems like there has to be a conversation between a number of different industries in order to move forward on that issue based on my science background and what I've been reading. So it's one of those things that's been on my heart to, it's like I get these nudges from my heart says, you need to think, you need to, make people aware of this and stuff. So that's kind of why I'm asking. So I know there's so many dilemmas at the moment, but this one's kind of a new one that's not on the radar screen of most people because it hasn't really been talked about a whole lot.
Sure, sure.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Heather.
Heather, for your question. So whenever you get a nudge from your heart, it's intuitive guidance, right? It's your higher self that's asking you to pay attention to something, and it will bring a topic, whether it's bird flu or something's not right with your neighbor next door, or don't drive down this street, go this way today. This is your heart nudging you to pay attention to something. And so when your heart nudges you, you follow its guidance from love. So maybe you nudge your heart and say, what is it that you need to know about this? And you sit in silence with your heart, with your inner wisdom. Maybe you do some heart-focused breathing, right? So just bring your attention into your heart and gently, slowly breathe in and out of your heart for about 5-6 seconds in and 5-6 seconds out, and breathing in and out of your heart and bringing your attention to the heart really activates the heart. And so then just sit with your heart in silence and see what intuitive insights come up. What intuitive insights, what I will, in the beginning, when we start tapping into our intuition and our heart wisdom, we have a hard time differentiating what's coming from our mind, from our head, from our brain as thoughts, and what's coming in as intuitive insights. So that's very natural, because your brain will want to come in and give you, it's got its own chatter. So sometimes in the beginning, it's hard to differentiate between the chatter and what's from the heart. So my experience is that the wisdom that comes from your heart is very gentle usually, and subtle. It's almost like so easy to disregard. But if you disregard it, you're usually disregarding it because your mind chatter is noisier. So really, when you start hearing a bunch of stuff, especially if it's coming from fear, if it's fear-based, it's usually your brain and it's mind chatter. So just say thank you. Don't disregard your mind chatter. Just say thank you for sharing, and just get back into your heart through your breath. Yeah, because we got to live with both, right? We got to live with both. So it's just really about feeling into the subtle insights that might come out, and then it will share with you how to get involved or what to do, about the situation that's on your heart.
Thank you. That is so helpful because often the subtle impulses and voices we'll have are the ones we first want to ignore. And it seems like as we grow spiritually, there's a side of us that says, let's kind of turn down the chatter and listen for those subtle voices because they're probably the truer ones. That's so helpful. I see a hand from Janet. So Janet, if you would click on become a panelist and come on and turn on your video, we will bring you on board and invite you to ask your question.
Hi, Janet. Nice to meet you.
Unmute yourself. There you go.
Many years ago, I heard a presentation by somebody from HeartMath who shared an experience of a school in Florida that was very, very troubled with high rates of people not attending, incredible rates of teacher turnover. And they did something where the teachers all would gather for 5 minutes before going to their classrooms, and they would spend that 5-minute time focusing on someone or something that gave them open-hearted feelings of love. And within a remarkable time, the whole situation in the school had turned around. So as I was listening to you and thinking about, okay, we've got the bird flu, we've got the fires, we've got many very distressing headlines coming out of our new president. Could you give us a little hope
Sure.
that if everybody on this call, for instance, were to do 5 minutes a day of that open-hearted focus, that it would make a difference? Because it seems to me the challenge with the headlines du jour is that they can trigger such a sense of hopelessness and powerlessness in us. So if you could give us a little encouragement about the impact of something like that 5 minute a day spiritual practice, that would be wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank
Janet.
you.
Thank
Thank
you very much.
Great question, Janet. Thank you. So what we did today with the guided meditation was the same practice, Janet, that you were mentioning, which it's called a heart lock-in, where the first step is you do heart focused breathing. The second step is you generate in your heart a renewing, regenerative feeling of love, care, compassion, appreciation for someone or something in your life. And then the third and final step is you radiate it through your body, through every particle of your being, emanating it from your heart, like in all directions, right? So your whole body. And yes, you can do that for 5 minutes in the morning when you wake up. You can do it at lunchtime. You can do it before going to bed. In the morning, it helps you set the tone for the day so that you're heart coherent. At lunchtime, it's like a reset, shift and reset, because you get busy with everything you're doing in the morning, and we tend to get too into our head. So it's a shift and reset back into balancing between our brain and our heart. And then at the end of the evening, as we get into bed, if we do this heart lock-in, it will support us in falling asleep faster, sleeping more deeply, and feeling more rested when we wake up in the morning. So being more coherent throughout the day. So this practice helps you be coherent throughout the day so that you're not reactive, you're responsive to life situations. And so this will be helpful to everyone. In regards to what's happening in this country and what's happening in this world, you know, we shouldn't watch too much news, you know, just enough to stay informed, but not to get caught up in the collective drama that's unfolding, because we create our lives. We create our personal lives, and we want to make sure that what we're creating is of the highest vibration. And when we get caught up in the drama of life, if there's a lot of drama, we can get pulled down into those lower vibration feelings, which then start drawing in experiences that we don't want to have. We really want to try like Michelle Obama says, we take the high road. Well, we take the high road with our emotions as well. We have to control our emotions and self-regulate our emotions. I say it's like uh, the sitting Buddha. The world is crashing around him, but he's still calmly active and actively calm in the midst of crashing worlds because we know who we are. We are tapped into our own divinity. We know this, what's unfolding is not necessarily what we need to participate in. So we don't emotionally get caught up in the drama of life. We create our life. It's a balance. It's a balance. We have to remember to stay in those high vibration emotions. It doesn't mean we negate our negative emotions. We accept them and we transmute them into higher vibration emotions using our breath, using our visualization, and usually using our intentions. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for that word of hope. That means a lot. We have a question from David. So, David, if you would click on panelist and start your video, we would love to hear your question.
Audio, video.
There you go.
Hey, Jennifer, great program. Thank you so much. So I have a kind of a feeling related question. The philosopher Spinoza said that all of our knowledge, everything we've ever learned and know, the whole universe has some modulation of feeling inherently connected with it. I mean, everything. So, how has that been studied or quantified? Especially, the feeling, I suppose different levels of vibration, perhaps some bits of knowledge having more feeling connected with them than others, but all of it has some. Has that been studied or quantified in any way? Sort of.
Well, the HeartMath, what they're doing is they have a global coherence initiative. It's a global coherence program. So HeartMath not only has the techniques, but they also have technology. So they have an inner balance sensor that we can wear. It's a biofeedback sensor. So we can see when we're in low, medium, or high coherence, right? We're self-regulating. We're using our breath and techniques through our heart to self-regulate our nervous system. So the Global Coherence Program, so first, before I move to the next step, so what they've discovered in their scientific research is a group of heart coherent people of 2 or 3, when incoherent people come into a room, those 2 or 3 will affect the hearts of the incoherent people who come in because of this electromagnetic field. So you bring in 1 or 2 and the 3 will affect the people who are not heart coherent. Now, they've extended the research for many, many years. They're doing research on the planet as well. And they're studying the Schumann resonance. So they have big sensors in 7 parts of the planet that they've dug into the ground where they monitor the Schumann resonance and how things that happen within humanity affect the planet. Okay, so our emotions and what humanity is emotionally going through is affecting the planet right now. And this is part of why you see the changes in nature, the winds, the expansion in winds, in hurricanes, in firestorms, in the adversity in the planet. So we each affect humanity affects the planet and nature. They also have sensors in trees. They're doing research on trees right now as well. And they're finding that trees have emotions and they communicate with each other through the root system. So what they've found, for example, and this breaks my heart, of course, is that, for example, when there is a forest fire, the trees will communicate to each other that danger is approaching through their communication through the roots, but it's an emotional communication. It's a change in the physiology with how they communicate to each other. So yes, there is research on how it's through the Schumann resonance. And so humans, our Schumann resonance is at the same Schumann resonance as the planets. So that we all affect each other for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, David. That was a good question.
Yeah.
Oh, it raises to me the issue that we have all experienced, that if you're sitting in a group of people quietly, for example, a doctor's waiting room, there can be a person who walks in the door who all of a sudden changes the dynamic of everybody in the room. They'll walk in smiling, they'll look around and say, "Hi, how are you? Good morning. My name is John or Sally. How are you doing?" And just the energy they bring into that room, that heart energy, will change the entire room. And so that's almost what you're saying happens.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and it's another thing to say it's so important for those of us who are heart-centered, who after we don't want to get into politics, but for some of us after the last election have felt discouraged. It's so important that we remain true to who we are, because we bring the spirit into every situation we encounter. Every meeting, every group, every time we go around other people, we're bringing this heart-centered awareness that just radiates out from us. And it has a very powerful effect over those who might depend upon the more mental or other sorts of ways of seeing things. And so it's important that I think we continue to do that and not get discouraged, but we continue on. We don't want to keep you too long. I do have one question that came in on Q&A that says, what are signs someone is ready to move on from grief to the next level? How would you answer that?
I would say a sign that someone has either processed their grief or is ready to move on beyond their grief is there's a level of acceptance.
Okay.
There's either a level of surrender,
Uh-huh.
an acceptance of the circumstance and the situation that they're in. Once we can surrender our will, because we can't control anything. We don't control anything. It's all divine will. And once there is surrender and acceptance, it's healing. Then we can start the heart healing, which is so important. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a wonderful answer. Thank you so much. Well, we'll ask ask Patricia to come back on, and we don't want to keep you too long, but want to say so much thank you, Jennifer, for this inspiring and beautiful sharing both you did as an interview and leading us through the meditation and with your answers. It's so encouraging, I think, to many of us. And so we wish you well, and we thank you so much for being here and a part of this project. We've already mentioned that your website is simply jendickens.com. And when we send out the video later this week, we'll include some more links that people can get information if they're interested in following up. Also, thank you, Patricia, for your wonderful, spot-on questions that you always ask of our guest, and the way you've brought forth such a beautiful interview. And Patricia, you can learn more about her from her website, which is simply Patricia Pierce, spelled PEARCE.com, and learn more about her work and her We Awakening podcast and other things. And lastly, we'll just remind you again that learn more about the center and upcoming programs and past programs through our website, which is simply contemporarymysticism.org. So remember to keep track of what we're doing. Check into the website, join our email list, and you'll learn when things are coming up. And we want to thank you again, Jen and Patricia, for leading a wonderful, wonderful program. So we will sign off now and say goodbye. And until we meet again, we'll say, remember that you are perfect, just exactly as you are. Thank you for being here, everyone. We love you. God
Thank
bless,
you.
and we'll
Lots
see
of
you
love.
soon.
Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.